The Yucatan Peninsula. This region is one of the most diverse areas on Earth. The state of Quintana Roo, located along the Caribbean coast, has more tree species than the United States and Canada combined. Some of the animal and plant species that live here cannot be found anywhere else on the planet. The many spectacular biomes within the peninsula produce some of the most unique and most impressive life seen on Earth. There are many theories on how the Yucatan was created. One of the most likely hypotheses is that the Yucatan was pushed to the Earth's surface around 4.5 million years ago by tectonic plates of North and South America colliding. This sent the large expanse of limestone that would become the Yucatan towards the Earth's surface, along with a fresh mountain range and the other territories that would become Central America. This new land also became a bridge across two continents that had been, until then, evolving separately for millions of years. This is one reason many people theorize that the Yucatan is so diverse. Once the bridge was made across the two continents, the animal life from each continent that had not been evolving together for over 100 million years began to mingle in the peninsula, among other places. Called the Great American Interchange, this had a lot of effects on the millions of years old ecosystem that had been established in both continents. The result is today's Yucatan fauna. Another reason the Yucatan is so diverse is because of the many biomes that scatter the surface of the peninsula. There are rivers, lakes, deserts, savannas, mangroves, caves, mountains, two seas, the second largest barrier reef on Earth, and of course, the jungle. The jungle covers most of the Yucatan. It also holds most of the animals that thrive on the peninsula. This is the ceiba tree, a jungle giant. Some can grow to be over 70 meters tall. That is the same height as a 23-story building. A few ceibas have grown to be over 800 years old. The Maya believed that these trees connected our Earth to the heavens and the underworld. In the jungle, the trees connect the forest floor with the highest branches. Life thrives at every level. Near the giant roots of the ceiba, the jungle life is only evident in the sounds and the smells. But if you take a closer look, the forest floor is crawling with life. Leafcutters, the forest farmer. These ants harvest leaves of the jungle plants and bring them back to their nest on carefully groomed paths. These highways can be seen crisscrossing the forest floor. Once the leaves are brought to the colony, the farmer ants take the leaves and bring them to the farms of mold. The leaves are then slowly eaten by the mold, and in turn, the ants eat the mold. Second only to humans, leafcutters have the largest and most complex societies on Earth. The ants actually have a caste system. There are 4 castes in most ant societies, mostly based on the size of the ant. They do various jobs like farming, defending the nests, harvesting leaves, and tending to the young. Leafcutters aren't the only creatures that inhabit the jungle floor. They must share with many other creatures, including one of the Yucatan's strangest, the agouti. These rodents are closely related to the guinea pig and look similar except that they are bigger and have longer legs for running. In fact, agoutis are one of the fastest rodent runners in the world. Agoutis also like to swim and are good at it. Agoutis forage on the forest floor looking for nuts, fruits, and small tree shoots to eat. Sometimes, when the agoutis are feeding, they can gather in groups of more than 100. Agoutis are one of the few species of animals that can open a Brazil nut without tools, but are able to access this tasty nut using only their teeth and paws. The agoutis must share the forest floor with another forager, one of the Yucatan's most brilliant birds, the ocellated turkey. This brightly decorated bird cannot be found anywhere outside the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula. Many say they are even more magnificent than the famous peacock, but sadly, the ocellated turkey is endangered. These turkeys act much like the wild turkeys we see here in Minnesota. They forage on the ground during the day, looking for grass seeds and other scrumptious plants. They usually gather in small groups of 3 to 12 when foraging on the jungle floor. During the night, they fly into the treetops to sleep. Another mammal that spends time on the jungle floor is the coatimundi. Coatis are similar to raccoons in size, tail, and foraging tastes, and methods of acquiring food. Both have versatile paws and finely tuned noses. Coatis' noses are one of the best in the jungle. They forage similarly to pigs, using their noses to root and leaf litter and in the ground for bugs and grubs. Coatis move around their territories in groups of up to 22 members strong. Coatis are very talkative animals too. They use different sounds and movements to communicate with other coatis. Many other animals also live on the jungle floor, like the brown brocket and over 71 varieties of snakes, many of which live in the decomposing leaves of the jungle floor. Frogs and lizards and thousands of species of insects also share this habitat. As we move up to the bottommost branches of the ceiba tree, we find possibly the most famous of all of Yucatan's animals, the jaguar. This magnificent predator is the third largest cat in the world after the lion and tiger. It has the largest bite strength to body size ratio of all the cats. It spends its day in the lower branches of the jungle trees sleeping. At night, it hunts for food. It feasts mainly on large prey such as deer and peccaries, supplementing with a variety of snakes, frogs, mice, birds, fish, and even domestic livestock. This nocturnal predator ranges from the Yucatan Peninsula all the way south to the Amazon rainforest in South America. Jaguars aren't the only large cats that live in the jungle. There are also pumas, margays, jaguarundis, and ocelots. Now we must climb even higher towards the canopy above the jungle where many animals make their homes halfway between the floor and the top of the jungle. Here we find an odd nocturnal animal, the northern tamandua. These climbers are closely related to anteaters. They clamber around the branches, often using their prehensile tails to act as another limb. Their tail is also the key factor that distinguishes them from regular anteaters. Up in the branches, they search for termite or ant nests, which they break open using their huge front claws, and suck out the insects with their long, sticky tongues. These tongues average 16 inches in length. These fascinating creatures do not have teeth, but rely on their gizzards, a feature usually found in birds, to grind up their food. Another denizen of the mid-range branches are frogs. Although the Amazon has more frog species than the Yucatan, Still, the peninsula has some of the most incredible frogs in the world. There are over 30 varieties of frogs, the majority of which are tree frogs, which almost never descend to the jungle floor. How can frogs survive so far from water? Amazingly, these frogs lay their eggs and live as tadpoles in tiny pools of rainwater that collect in a species of plants known as bromeliads, parasite plants of the jungle, which are crucial to many types of tree-dwelling amphibians, including salamanders. Frogs are small, and they are not the fastest creatures in the forest, but they have developed a few ways of surviving predators. Many frog species have evolved to blend in with their surroundings. Distinct markings and coloration match certain types of trees or leaves and allow them to virtually disappear from the eyes of their predators. The opposite of camouflage would be bright colors of warning. Why would such a small creature call attention to itself with bright blue and black marks, for example? These colors act as a deterrent for any animal. This group of frogs is highly poisonous. They have evolved a way to secrete a deadly toxin all over their skin. To touch or eat them would mean death. Snakes also use these survival mechanisms, camouflage and poison. Snakes can also warn of their venom with bright colors, and yet other snakes, without poison, have evolved to mimic these warning colors. Snakes fall into two categories, venomous and non-venomous, many of which are constrictors. The most famous of these is the boa constrictor. Constrictors use their entire body to wrap around and suffocate their prey. At the top, the canopy of the jungle is home to at least 540 species of birds. Many are brightly colored like the motmot or clockbird, the green jay, orioles, and parakeets. There are also doves and blackbirds, mockingbirds, and raptors. The snowy eagle can be seen roosting in the tallest tree in its territory. Most famous of these birds is the quetzal. This bird is honored in the past and today by the Maya and is much admired by bird lovers around the world for its amazing plumage and spectacular colors. In fact, the currency of Guatemala is named after the bird and carries its image on the bills. Sadly, they are almost extinct. Other bird residents of the canopy are two varieties of toucans. One, the keel-billed toucan, is more recognizable. The yellow-chested specimen shown here is the model for Toucan Sam of Fruit Loops fame. The other less famous cousin is the collared aracari, which is smaller and slightly less vividly colored, as you can see here. The Yucatan also has its own parrot called, oddly enough, the Yucatan parrot. Birds aren't the only residents of the canopy. They must share it with the monkeys. There are two types of simians in the Yucatan, howler monkeys and spider monkeys. These primates are New World monkeys, which means they have prehensile tails and flatter noses than Old World monkeys. They are also often monogamous. Both are vegetarians, although howlers are exclusively leaf eaters. These monkeys swing easily through the canopy in search of food. This type of locomotion is called brachiating. Howlers get their name because they are especially good at yelling. This must tire them out because they rest 70% of each day. This vocal roaring is used to proclaim their territory and to find mates. It can be heard as much as 3 miles away. Try to imagine what a Spanish conquistador must have felt the first time he heard this sound in the middle of the night. Spider monkeys get their name from their long limbs and tail, which help them maneuver through the jungle to find fruits and nuts to eat, the excess of which falls to the jungle floor for the ground foragers to share. Spider monkeys have double the rating size as hawks. There are many rivers that run through the jungle. They begin in the mountains and eventually reach one of the two oceans. Many creatures live near or in the jungle rivers. Fish swim beneath the cascades. Many varieties of snails inhabit many parts of the river, even living under the rapids. Some snails eat decaying leaves, while others survive on algae on the rocks. Turtles are another shelled inhabitant of the rivers. The Baird's tapir is another animal that likes to live near the water. This large amphibious mammal is an endangered species. It has a small trunk like an elephant, used for scenting danger and food, as well as for bringing down branches. It is mostly a solitary animal, unless nurturing its young. During the hot summers, the tapir may spend most of its time in the water. While many of the jungle rivers flow straight to the oceans above ground, many others, crossing the Yucatan, dive underground into the vast limestone cave system that riddles the entire northern part of the peninsula. Sometimes in the farthest eastern part of the area, these underwater rivers open to the surface. These geological formations are called cenotes. The highest concentration of cenotes is in the eastern tip. These cenotes appear in a perfect section of a circle. Many geologists believe that the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago opened these underground rivers to the surface. Cenotes are a big tourist attraction in many parts of the Yucatan, thanks to the crystal clear blue water and many interesting rock formations. Cenotes are also an attraction for many types of animals. In the eastern part of the Yucatan, it is drier than the jungle in the west, and so these freshwater oases are important to many of the Yucatan's animals. Bats oftentimes make their homes in these caves. Many species of bats can be found in this area. Among them, the hairy-legged vampire bat, the wrinkle-faced bat, the velvety fruit-eating bat, Wagner's mustached bat, and lesser dog-legged bat, just to name a few. They live in crevices in the ceilings and walls above the water level or in dry caves too. Often they fly out at dusk to hunt for nocturnal insects, returning to their cave at dawn. Another type of flying creature that makes their homes in these caves are swallows. These birds create their nests from mud and vegetation. The same swallows can also be found in the ruins of many abandoned temples and palaces of the Maya. Much of the land in the east of the Yucatan is grassland or drier, shorter forest than the jungle in the west. Here, there is a whole different set of animals. Surprisingly enough, the roadrunners of the Yucatan are lizards. At 21 miles per hour, the spiny-tailed iguana, distinct to the Yucatan Peninsula, is the fastest reptile in the world. These iguanas live among many other species of iguanas found in the area. During the hottest part of the day, they take refuge from the sun and heat in dirt holes and rock crevices. They can often be seen at Mayan sites sunning themselves on the ledges and steps of temples. They live mainly on a diet of dark leafy greens and secondarily fruits and flowers. Perhaps this healthy eating is why they often live as long as 20 years or more. Peccaries are wild pigs that can be found in these grasslands. They appear dainty because of their large body and thin legs, but are actually fast runners. Their babies are possibly the cutest things you will ever see. They graze on grass in small groups, often rooting for tubers, roots, and grubs. A class of animals that can be seen almost anywhere at all on dry land are the insects. In the Yucatan, they are everywhere, especially this swarm of locusts. And they are not limited by a cold winter, like here in Minnesota. As a result, they are more diverse, colorful, and numerous. Many different types of bugs in the Yucatan have developed many different ways of surviving. Some are extremely specialized. For example, the stick bug. Stick bugs have evolved to blend perfectly with most foliage. They look exactly like a stick. If they hold perfectly still in a pile of twigs, it would be hard to find them. Other bugs are also good at camouflage. Many resemble green or brown leaves, or a stone, or even a piece of mold. Ants are one of the most interesting types of insects. They work together and are extremely well adapted. Many scientists think that if there's an apocalypse, they will survive. Some bugs have very large antennae, while others have large pincers. There seems to be no end of the amount of different bugs in the Yucatan. Some bugs have even adapted to swim on or in the water. A water beetle can crawl, fly, or swim. Certain types of spiders can also dive underwater. They carry their air supply in a bubble around the mouth. In swamps, lagoons, and mangroves, along with the water bugs, live very small pink shrimp, which float around looking for microscopic food in the water. These shrimp are the main food of the Mexican flamingo. The flamingos actually get all of their pink coloring from the shrimp. That is why when flamingos are born, they are white, and when they are young, their beaks are not yet curved. As they grow older, their beak will curve because when they feed, the beak hits the bottom of the lagoon at an angle, which, over time, curves it. Flamingos have very long legs and necks to stay above the water and to catch shrimp under the water. One of the most diverse biomes in the Yucatan are the mangrove lagoons. The mangroves supply an environment for a variety of animals. The roots make a perfect habitat for fish and other marine animals, including crocodiles. With the abundance of fish living in the mangroves, the crocs hunt easily. Above the water, the leafy branches of the mangrove trees support many types of birds that also live mainly on marine animals. One lagoon we visited in Mexico was the Yalcu Lagoon. The lagoon was especially diverse because fresh water from an underground river mixed with salt water from the ocean, making many areas of brackish water. This phenomenon resulted in a wide array of beautiful fish and animals that eat them. Parrotfish constantly bite at the dead coral with their beak-like mouths to get at the tiny animals living in there. This side effect of all this munching is the creation of coral sand. While we were there, we even saw a barracuda, an extremely fast predator fish. Luckily for us, it was young and small. Eels live in holes in the old coral and the floor of the lagoon. All lagoons open up to the sea, which is a whole other world, as is the seashore. As you walk along the shore of the Yucatan, you can observe horseshoe crabs. These ancient creatures were around before the dinosaurs, and because they are well adapted, survive even today. Near Tulum, a Mayan ruin on the coast, along the shore at night, the stars are not the only glowing things. Mixed with the sand and water, tiny bioluminescent creatures have washed ashore in seaweed and with the surf. Glowing crabs can also be seen darting from hole to hole in the sand. As the sun rises, the seabirds begin their daily fishing. Frigates gracefully float above the waves, keeping a sharp eye out for fish. Pelicans use their massive mouths to scoop up fish during their plunging dives. Tidal pools often dot the rocks, filling and emptying with the rhythm of the waves. These too are tiny ecosystems that shelter small fish, crabs, and sea plants. But as we come to the sea, it is time to return across it and the land beyond, north to Minnesota, where the animal life is very different. Time with the colorful and diverse animals of the Yucatan has come to an end. Together, we have traveled the biomes, observing many different animals and the incredible diversity of methods these animals use to survive. The Yucatan provides many different habitats for thousands of amazing and beautiful animals that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet.